general elections were held in Kenya on 4 March 2013. Voters elected the president, members of the National Assembly and new Senate, as well as county governors and representatives. They were the first elections held under the new constitution, which was approved in a 2010 referendum, and were also the first run by the new independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The presidential elections were effectively a contest between Uhuru Kenyatta of the National Alliance and Raila Odinga of the Orange Democratic Movement, with incumbent President Mwai Kibaki having served 2 terms and not being eligible for re-election. Kenyatta was backed by the Jubilee Alliance, whilst Odinga was supported by the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy. Kenyatta was declared the winner with 50.5% of the vote, meaning a second round of voting was not needed. Odinga unsuccessfully contested the results in the Supreme Court. Background: election date. The elections were originally scheduled for the 14th of August 2012. A December 2012 were planned for the election, depending on a court ruling to be issued. The court ruled that presidential and parliamentary elections should be held in March 2013. This resulted in the resignation of several civil servants who wished to enter politics, as required by the Elections Act. On 28 December 2012, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission announced the notice of general elections, which confirmed polling day as 4 March. The nomination deadlines were set over a period between 29 January and 1 February, with presidential candidates submitting their nomination papers on 29 and 30 January. Supreme Court. On 13 January, the judiciary indicated it would hear and determine within 2 weeks disputes on presidential election results. The Judiciary Working Committee on Election Preparations announced that election petitions would be certified urgent. These rules were developed in pursuance of Article 163 of the Constitution, which mandates the Supreme Court to make rules for the exercise of its exclusive jurisdiction of hearing presidential election petition. Voter registration ran from 19 November 2012 for 30 days. Problems were reported during the first few days of the registration exercise included availability of electricity, military operations in some areas, and logistical challenges caused by rains. Another subsequent challenge was the inability to register prospective voters who were still awaiting issuance of the formal identity documents by the government. On 27 November, the government announced that, due to time and logistics constraints, there would be no attempts to register Kenyan voters in the diaspora. The IEBC later announced a decision to register Kenyan diaspora voters living within the East African Community countries. The 10-day exercise concluded on 25 December 2012 with low turnout attributed to logistical challenges. The IEBC estimate was that about 1,700 people registered. Voter registration was carried out using biometric voter registration kits, which would reduce certain incidents of fraud. The purchase of the BVR kits was financed through a loan from Standard Chartered Kenya in a government-to-government deal involving Kenya and Canada, made cheaper by a guarantee from the Canadian government. The Canadian government arranged to have its fully owned parastatal Canadian Commercial Corporation sign a contract with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. A case was filed in court seeking to extend the voter registration period, arguing that Section 5 of the Elections Act was in conflict with the Constitution to the extent that it limited continuous registration of voters. The courts however declined requests to extend the deadline. After the 18th of December deadline, the IEBC released the provisional voter numbers showing a registered base of 14.3 million voters. The IEBC indicated that they had missed a target of 18 million voters, citing voter apathy as one of reasons for this. The IEBC began an exercise to clean up the voters' roll with the target of opening it for verification early January 2013. On the 13th of January 2013, the IEBC opened its voter register for inspection. Voters were to verify the details before the 26th of January to enable the Commission clean the register ahead of the poll. The options include visiting respective registration centers, the IEBC website, or the use of mobile phone numbers via an SMS service. The IEBC announced on the 23rd of February 2013 that it had removed 20,000 voters who had registered more than once from the voter roll. The names were identified during continuing activities to clean up the register. Electoral system. The 2010 Constitution provided for a two-round system for presidential elections, the president having previously been elected on a first-past-the-post basis. In order to win in the first round, a candidate was required to receive over 50% of the vote, as well as 25% of the vote in at least 24 counties. Campaign, coalitions and alliances. The law required all Kenyan political parties to register any coalition agreements with the Registrar of Political Parties by the 4th of December 2012. This resulted in several publicized discussions among key political players and the respective parties who aimed to form pre-election coalitions prior to the deadline. Another effect considered likely was a reduction in the number of prospective candidates. 4 coalitions formed by the deadline include the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, ODM, Wiper Party, Ford Kenya and the Federal Party of Kenya. The Jubilee Alliance, TNA, URP and UDF parties. UDF later left the coalition. Machel Wikenda was the Director of Communications and Secretary of Arts and Entertainment of the National Alliance from April 2012 to August 2013, and he led the Media and Communications Department of the party during the 2013 elections. Eagle Alliance, KNC and POA parties, Pambazuka Coalition, New Ford Kenya, National Vision Party, Federal Party of Kenya and KADDU parties. The coalition collapsed on the 29th of December 2012. Amani Coalition, UDF, New Ford Kenya and KANU parties remain closed to allow party primaries to continue. On the 19th of January, the IEBC indicated that political aspirants who lost during respective party primaries are not allowed to defect and seek tickets on other parties after midnight on the 18th of January 2013. By law, political parties were expected to nominate their candidates for an election at least 45 days before, while other parties and coalitions held their nominations early. The Jubilee, Amani and Cord coalitions chose to hold countrywide the nominations 2 days before the deadline. These were marked with disorganization and chaos, with protests arising in Nairobi, Nyanza and central provinces. Further acrimony arose over issuance of certificates by political parties, with over 200 complaints filed with the IEBC Disputes and Resolution Panel. The committee consisted of 4 IEBC commissioners and 1 official from the Director of Public Prosecutions Office. The committee held its sittings at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi. Complaints raised included issuing of certificates not losers, nepotism and discrimination. The committee had 7 days to complete the arbitration process, with those dissatisfied with the tribunal's decision asked to lodge the cases with the High Court. The panel eventually announced 3 days of hearings. The panel completed its work on the 28th of January 2013, dismissing 64 out of 207 petitions following failure by complainants to attend. 29 applications did not need determination as political parties conceded to the complaints. Presidential candidates. Minister of Internal Security George Saitoti, second-hand man to both Daniel Arap Moi and incumbent President Mwai Kibaki, was expected to be a candidate but died in June 2012 in a helicopter crash. His mixed Maasai and Kikuyu heritage was seen as important in light of the violence that followed the 2007 presidential election and the tendency in Kenyan politics for ethnic-based alliances. Several politicians made public their intentions to run or were speculated to run by media analysts and polling organizations. Sylvester Wai-Kibaki, MP for Bumula constituency. Mohammed Abdubadida, former high school teacher. Joseph Helon, jazz maestro, chair of the Placenta Party. Cyrus G. Rongo, MP for Lugari constituency. Kingwo Kamantgu, Oxford Rhodes scholar. Martha Karua, MP for Gitchagu constituency. Peter Kenneth, MP for Gatanga constituency. Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy Prime Minister. Dason Kirima, leader of the New Democrats. James Ole Kiapi, former permanent secretary in the Education Ministry. Musalia Mudavadi, Deputy Prime Minister. Paul Muite, lawyer and former MP for Kikuyu constituency. Mutalva Museumi, MP for Gachoka constituency. Kalonzo Musyoka, Vice President. Sisa Muthika, leader of Restoration of Unity. George Kenyatta Muambo, Battalion S5, political scientist and paralegal. Joseph Nyaga, Cooperative Development and Marketing. Raila Odinga, Prime Minister. William Ruto, MP for Eldoret North constituency. Raphael Tuju, a former MP for Rarieda constituency. George Luchiri Wajakoya, diaspora candidate. Eugene Wamalwa, Justice Minister and MP for Sabati constituency. Moses Wetangula, Minister for Trade. Ultimately Joseph Helon, George Luchiri Wajakoya, Dason Kirima and Kingwo Kamantgu did not submit papers to the IEBC. William Ruto, Mutalva Museumi and Joseph Nyaga opted to support Uhuru Kenyatta, with Ruto being selected as his running mate. Those who stepped down in favor of Raila Odinga included Cyrus G. Rongo, Moses Wetangula, Sylvester Wai-Kibaki and Kalonzo Musyoka, who became his running mate. Eugene Wamalwa opted to support Mudavadi, while Raphael Tuju supported Peter Kenneth, who both chose other running mates. On the 24th of January 2013, the IEBC began collecting the initial batch of documents to be used for processing the names of presidential candidates who would contest the elections. Candidates were required to present a letter expressing intention to contest the presidency and lists of 2,000 signatures from supporters in more than half of the 47 counties. ICC and integrity court cases. A court case was filed seeking to restrain the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission from accepting the nomination of any candidate who has been committed to trial for serious criminal charges under the Kenyan and international law. At the time of the elections, Kenyatta and Ruto were facing charges of crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court following the International Criminal Court investigation in Kenya as a result of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Although the petitioners withdrew the case on the 29th of November 2012, a new petition was filed the following day by an NGO that was an interested party in the initial case. On the 22nd of January 2013, High Court Judge David Majani ruled that 3 integrity cases filed against presidential candidates and the deputies would be heard jointly. The cases sought to bar Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, Deputy Prime Ministers Uhuru Kenyatta and Musalia Mudavadi and William Ruto from contesting in the presidential elections. On the 25th of January 2013, Chief Justice Willie Mutunga appointed 5 judges to hear the 3 cases jointly: Mabokole Saga, Luka Kimru, Helen Omondi, George Gimondo and Pauline Nyamwea. Hearings began on the 7th of February 2013. On the 15th of February the High Court unanimously rejected the petition. Debates. The Kenyan media announced the sponsorship of presidential debates set to be broadcast between the 26th of November 2012 and the 11th of February 2013, with coverage from 8 television stations and 32 radio stations. The debates were postponed to January 2013 to allow completion of the nomination process. On the 25th of January, the media confirmed the debates would be held on the 11th of February 2013 and the 25th of February 2013. Other organizations later sponsored similar though less publicized presidential and vice presidential debates. The first debate was held on the 11th of February 2013 at the Brook House International School and moderated by Julie Gichuru and Linus Kaikai. The debates were initially meant to be between 6 candidates excluding Mwai and Dada. However, Mwai's party moved to court and won reprieve, allowing them to be added as late participants. They however did not debate on physically similar podiums as the other 6 candidates. The debate was split into 2, with a break in between. The second media-sponsored debate was held on the 25th of February 2013 at the Brook House International School and was moderated by Joe Agio and Uduik Amimo. All presidential candidates participated. Kenyatta had threatened to withdraw from the second debate, alleging bias on the part of moderator Linus Kaikai in his handling of the ICC case. Question. In the first debate, several churches and Christian organizations supported by Daystar University held a presidential and vice presidential debates, which were both broadcast on the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation TV station and intermittently on several other TV stations. The debates were held at the Anglican Church of Kenya's All Saints Cathedral. The focus of these debates were issues and questions that the Christians' bodies identified as important to them. Aside from the lower publicity, the debates were also characterized by poor turnout by the candidates. The Central Organization of Trade Unions also held a debate which received low publicity and participation of some of the candidates' issues. During the campaign, Odinga caused a stir when he implied that Kenyatta was among those in possession huge tracts of land across the country, and could therefore not reform the sector. Kenyatta responded by claiming he was clean and that Odinga should respond over his involvement with the Kisumu molasses plant. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission, however, through its chairman Malendo Kibanya, stated that such statements were a form of incitement. Kibanya was contradicted by Constitution Implementation Commission Chairman Charles Nyaki, who said candidates could be prevented from discussing land issues during the campaigns. A recently appointed Police Inspector General David Kimayo, whose name appears in the Ndungu Land Commission's report on illegal, irregular allocation of public land, also added his voice, asking for politicians not to debate land land matters. Rejection of debate on land matters also came from the Anglican Church of Kenya. In mid-August 2012, tribal conflict led to the highest death toll through deliberate killings since the last election. Though the specific instance had no clear motive, past clashes have occurred due to the alleged misuse of land and water resources. However, this instance was reportedly larger in scale and intensity. Speculation was made of links to the election amid an increase in political tensions. During and in the aftermath of the political party nominations held between 17 and 18 January 2013, unrest was seen in several parts of the country, most notably in Nairobi, Nyanza and central provinces. The 2013 elections were largely peaceful, other than an incident in the early hours of the 4th of March just before polls opened, when a gang killed at least 6 police officers in the region of Changamwe, Mombasa and in Kwale County. The authorities immediately blamed the Mombasa Republican Council and arrested some of its members over the incident. Nevertheless, turnout in the affected counties was still high. Opinion polls. President first round, second round results. President, Senate, National Assembly local elections. The 2013 general election will be the first where there would be election of county governors and the deputies for the 47 newly created counties. A total of 237 candidates ran for office. Each county was divided into wards in order to elect county assembly representatives, with 9,885 candidates running.